welcome, and good evening to you all. Thank you for choosing me as your humble guide to restful sleep. I'm Shea Brunson, also known as Shea Buttah, and these are Sheabuttah's Sleep Stories. If you haven't already, like and subscribe this channel, as well as this video, so that I can continue to take you all on a restful journey to sleep. If you're an author looking to give voice to your work, please contact me here, or just click the link in the description. Tonight's stories are from one of my favorite faces to see, Benjamin Franklin. The Whistle. I received my dear friend's 2 letters, one for Wednesday and one for Saturday. This is, again, Wednesday. I do not deserve one for today, because I have not answered the former, but, indolent as I am and averse to writing, the fear of having no more of your pleasing epistles if I do not contribute to the correspondence obliges me to take up my pen, and as Mr. B has kindly sent me word that he sets out tomorrow to see you, instead of spending this Wednesday evening, as I have done its namesake, in your delightful company, I sit down to spend it in thinking of you, in writing to you, and in reading over and over again your letters. I am charmed with your description of paradise, and with your plan of living there, and I approve much of your conclusion that, in the meantime, we should draw all the good we can from this world. In my opinion, we might all draw more good from it than we do, and suffer less evil, if we would take care not to give too much for whistles. For to me it seems that most of the unhappy people we meet with are become so by neglect of that caution. You ask what I mean? You love stories, and will excuse my telling one of myself. When I was a child of 7 years old, my friends, on a holiday, filled my pocket with coppers. I went directly to a shop where they sold toys for children, and being charmed with the sound of a whistle that I met by the way in the hands of another boy, I voluntarily offered and gave all my money for one. I then came home and went whistling all over the house, much pleased with my whistle, but disturbing all the family. My brothers and sisters and cousins, understanding the bargain I had made, told me I had given 4 times as much for it as it was worth, put me in mind what good things I might have bought with the rest of the money, and laughed at me so much for my folly that I cried with vexation, and the reflection gave me more chagrin than the whistle gave me pleasure. This, however, was afterwards of use to me, the impression continuing on my mind, so that often, when I was tempted to buy some unnecessary thing, I said to myself, "Don't give too much for the whistle," and I saved my money. As I grew up, came into the world, and observed the actions of men, I thought that I met with many, very many, who gave too much for the whistle. When I saw one too ambitious of court favor, sacrificing his time in attendance on ladies, his repose, his liberty, his virtue, and perhaps his friends to attain it, I have said to myself, this man gives too much for his whistle. When I saw another, fond of popularity, constantly employing himself in political bustles, neglecting his own affairs, and ruining them by that neglect, he pays, indeed, said I, too much for his whistle. If I knew a miser who gave up every kind of comfortable living, all the pleasure of doing good to others, all the esteem of his fellow citizens, and the joys of benevolent friendship for the sake of accumulating wealth, poor man, said I, you pay too much for your whistle. When I met with a man of pleasure, sacrificing every laudable improvement of the mind or of his fortune to mere corporeal sensations, and ruining his health in their pursuit. Mistaken man, said I, you are providing pain for yourself instead of pleasure. You give too much for your whistle. If I see one fond of appearance or of fine clothes, fine houses, fine furniture, fine equipages, all above his fortune, for which he contracts debts and ends his career in a prison, alas, say I, he has paid dear, very dear, for his whistle. When I see a beautiful, sweet-tempered girl married to an ill-natured brute of a husband, what a pity, say I, that she should pay so much for a whistle. In short, I conceive that great part of the miseries of mankind, and are brought upon them by the false estimates that they have made of the value of things, and by their giving too much for their whistles. Yet I ought have clarity for these unhappy people when I consider that, with all this wisdom of which I am boasting, there are certain things in this world so tempting. For example, the apples of King John, which happily are not to be bought. For if they were put to sale by auction, I might very easily be led to ruin myself in the purchase, and find that I had once more given too much for the whistle. Adieu, my dear friend, and believe me ever yours, very sincerely and with unalterable affection. The morals of chess. Playing at chess is the most ancient and universal game known among men, for its original is beyond the memory of history, and it has, for numberless ages, been the amusement of all the civilized nations of Asia, the Persians, the Indians, and the Chinese. Europe has had it above 1,000 years. The Spaniards have spread it over their part of America, and it begins lately to make its appearance in these northern states. It is so interesting in itself as not to need the view of gain to induce engaging in it, and thence it is never played for money. Those, therefore, who have leisure for such diversions cannot find one that is more innocent, and the following piece, written with a view to correct, among a few young friends, some little improprieties in the practice of it, shows at the same time that it may, in its effects on the mind, but not merely innocent, but advantageous to the vanquished, as well as to the victor. The game of chess is not merely an idle amusement. Several very valuable qualities of the mind, useful in the course of human life, are to be acquired or strengthened by it, so as to become habits ready on all occasions. For life is a kind of chess in which we have often points to gain, and competitors or adversaries to contend with, and in which there is a vast variety of good and ill events that are, in some degree, the effects of prudence or the want of it. By playing at chess, then, we may learn 1. Foresight, which looks a little into futurity and considers the consequences that may attend an action, for it is continually occurring to the player. If I move this piece, what will be the advantages of my new situation? What use can my adversary make of it to annoy me? What other moves can I make to support it and to defend myself from his attacks? 2. Circumspection, which surveys the whole chessboard or scene of action, the relations of the several pieces and situations, the dangers they are respectively exposed to, the several possibilities of their aiding each other, the probabilities that the opponent may make this or that move and attack this or the other piece, and what different means can be used to avoid his stroke or turn its consequences against him. 3. Caution, not to make our moves too hastily, This habit is best acquired by observing strictly the laws of the game, such as if you touch a piece, you must move it somewhere. If you set it down, you must let it stand. And it is therefore best that these rules should be observed, as the game thereby becomes more the image of human life, and particularly of war, in which, if you have incautiously put yourself into a bad and dangerous position, you cannot obtain your enemy's leave to withdraw your troops and place them more securely, but you must abide all the consequences of your rashness. And lastly, we learn by chess the habit of not being discouraged by present bad appearances in the state of our affairs, the habit of hoping for a favorable change, and that of persevering in the search of resources. The game is so full of events, there is such a variety of turns in it, the fortune of it is so subject to sudden vicissitudes, and one so frequently, after long contemplation, discovers the means of extricating oneself from a supposed insurmountable difficulty, that one is encouraged to continue the contest to the last in hopes of victory by our own skill, or, at least, of giving a stalemate by the negligence of our adversary. And whoever considers what in chess he often sees instances of, that particular pieces of success are apt to produce presumption, and its consequent inattention, by which more is afterwards lost than was gained by the preceding advantage, while misfortunes produce more care and attention by which the loss may be recovered, will learn not to be too much discouraged by the present success of his adversary, nor to despair of final good fortune upon every little check he receives in pursuit of it, that we may, therefore, be induced more frequently to choose this beneficial amusement in preference to others which are not attended with the same advantages. Every circumstance that may increase the pleasure of it should be regarded, and every action or word that is unfair, disrespectful, or that in any way may give uneasiness should be avoided as contrary to the immediate intention of both the players, which is to pass the time agreeably. Therefore, first, if it is agreed to play according to the strict rules, then those rules are to be exactly observed by both parties, and should not be insisted on for one side, while deviated from by the other, for this is not equitable. 2. If it is agreed not to observe the rules exactly, but one party demands indulgences, he should then be as willing to allow them to the other. 3. No false move should ever be made to extricate yourself out of a difficulty or to gain an advantage. There can be no pleasure in playing with a person once detected in such unfair practice. 4. If your adversary is long in playing, you ought not to hurry him or express any uneasiness at his delay. You should not sing, nor whistle, nor look at your watch, nor take up a book to read, nor make a tapping with your feet on the floor, or with your fingers on the table, nor do anything that may disturb his attention. For all these things displease, and they do not show your skill in playing, but your craftiness or your rudeness. 5. You ought not to endeavor to amuse and deceive your adversary by pretending to have made bad moves, and saying you have now lost the game, in order to make him secure and careless and inattentive to your schemes. For this is fraud and deceit, not skill in the game. 6. You must not, when you have gained a victory, use any triumphing or insulting expression, nor show too much pleasure, but endeavor to console your adversary and make him less dissatisfied with himself by every kind and civil expression that may be used with truth, such as, you understand the game better than I, but you are a little inattentive, or you play too fast, or you had the best of the game, but something happened to divert your thoughts, and that turned it in my favor. 7. If you are a spectator while others play, observe the most perfect silence, for if you give advice, you offend both parties, him against whom you gave it, because it may cause the loss of his game, him in whose favor you give it, because, though it be good, and he follows it, he loses the pleasure he might have had if you had permitted him to think till it occurred to himself. Even after a move or moves, you must not, by replacing the pieces, show how it might have been played better, for that displeases and may occasion disputes or doubts about the true situation. All talking to the players lessens or diverts their attention, and is therefore unpleasing, nor should you give the least hint to either party by any kind of noise or motion. If you do, you are unworthy to be a spectator. If you have a mind to exercise or show your judgment, do it in playing your own game when you have an opportunity, not in criticizing or meddling with or counseling the play of others. Lastly, if the game is not to be played rigorously according to the rules above mentioned, then moderate your desire of victory over your adversary, and be pleased with one over yourself. Snatch not eagerly at every advantage offered by his unskillfulness or inattention, but point out to him kindly that by such a move he places or leaves a piece in danger and unsupported, that by another he will put his king in a dangerous situation. By this generous civility, so opposite to the unfairness above forbidden, you may indeed happen to lose the game to your opponent, but you will win what is better: his esteem, his respect, and his affection, together with the silent approbation and goodwill of impartial spectators. And that, my friends, is Shea Buttah's Sleep Stories. Before I leave you for the evening, I'd like to end my time with you with some positive affirmations that will resonate in your sleeping mind. 1. I am enough. 2. I believe in my success. 3. I will share my beauty and my talents with the world. 4. I am enough. Thank you for listening. Let your sleep be restful, your thoughts uplifting, and your dreams never too far to reach.